I gotta tell you that this video is really freaking hard to make. I've already filmed this twice. This is the third time I'm filming it, and the previous 2 times of filming it is a raw footage that totals up to 1 hour 30 minutes. It's been quite a hell of a ride to film this video because it's not really easy to ensure that this is gonna be super high quality and to ensure that whatever I'm gonna say are balanced arguments that a lot of you can agree towards. So I did it once, I did it twice, I looked at them, I reviewed them myself, and I'm like, nah, I'm just gonna put them in the trash. Hopefully now, third time's the charm, and then we can have a good enjoyable video to go for. Now, in spirit, I do have with me a particular special guest, and we have Mr. Bitey plushie. I'm gonna put him right over here. Some of you are gonna ask me where in the world did I get this, so you can get yourself a Bitey plushie from the official Arknights merchandise store. The link is probably popped out on the screen or even in the description of my video. You can use it to grab whatever merchandise that you want. This is overdue from the Dusk event that occurred. It's considered our 1.5 anniversary. And yeah, there are still some stocks of this plushie as of last that I've seen. If let's say you want to grab yourself a Nian poster or the Dusk poster that you see right behind me, I don't think you can grab that anymore. That should be out of stock. But yeah, there are other merchandisers there. So if some of you want it, better grab it before it's gone. And then they'll update their merchandise store in the future. Was I sponsored by Yostar to do this? No, I just had to answer it because I think some of you will ask me where in the world did I get this. So good for you. Okay, let's get started with today's video, which is why does Arknights do limited banners? A lot of you are going to tell me that it's obvious that the company is doing it for money, the company needs to do it to survive and whatsoever. I think most people got the obviousness, but some people haven't caught it on yet. But this video is more than just about that. This video is going to be a very interesting one where we're going to study the spending behavior of our Arknights players. We're going to see the banner revenue in Arknights CN from the very start of the game all the way up to a certain banner, which is Skadi the Corrupting Heart. I gotta say that this video could end up being some of your favorites in the future. So before we go into those banner rankings I'm speaking of, let me clarify some stuff about the previous video. There's one thing that I must cover because it seems like a lot of you have told me about it and I went to read up about it, which has to do with the player base size. Let's talk about global and then we talk about CM. Now for global, some of you stated to me that no, global has probably way more players than the 200,000 that I spoke of, which some of you then cited to me that the number of downloads within Play Store or the Apple App Store is more than 1 million. Now that part, I don't disagree. There is more than 1 million downloads within the App Store. But when I filmed the previous video, I did film it to talk about the Play Store and the App Store downloads. The problem was that when I had that segment already fully edited, I couldn't find the image to show the number of downloads. I mean, by now I already have the image to show you guys that, yeah, this is the number of downloads. But yet, at the same time, even if I have the image, I didn't put it in my video because the number of downloads do not determine the number of players. Think about it this way. You can have players who join the game, and then afterwards they leave the game. But within the data itself, it's gonna save as someone who has downloaded the game. So, the 1 million downloads isn't reflective of people who have possibly left the game. And it's also not reflective of people who downloaded the game more than once. There are some people who have their game on all kinds of devices, like you have your game on your phone, you have your game on your tablet, on your PC, on your laptop and all that kind of things. And each of these are different downloading venues. Some of you have emulators as well. You maybe have BlueStacks, you have LD Player, you have Mumu, whatever emulator that you're using. And each of this is like a particular download. So, what I'm trying to put here is that you cannot use downloads to determine the number of players, which is why my favorite way to determine it is by social media numbers. It's not exact, but you can kind of estimate that it's gonna be around, or if not more, than the number of people who's following all these accounts. So that's the thing for you guys to note as to how I derive the global numbers. It is most likely between 200k to 300k. Now let's move to CN numbers. CN numbers, I was a little less careful when I was, determining it over there. Now the thing is that I used the viewership of the 2.5 anniversary livestream to determine the number of players. But some of you then shared with me that the way that the metrics or the way that the numbers work there is different from our usual platforms of like YouTube and Twitch. Bilibili does some kind of thing where they overinflate the number. Something along the line of if let's say people click in once and then they leave, it saves as a number or something. So it's not truly reflective of the number of live viewers that's within that thing. So I got what you guys said. I do apologize that I did not do further research into this to then really confirm the number of players. But I have a lot of numbers to show you guys, which goes from things like the 2nd anniversary numbers, when they determine the number of players who had got Amiya, the number of players who played CC, I've even placed the number of followers in Bilibili. So I put this all over here for you guys to determine to yourself. with all this information, how would you decide what is the number of players in CN? We can't really tell the number of active players because the only person holding the information is Hyperglyph. And all we can do is estimate. So with this information, I guess you can go and determine. To me, when I look at it, I guess the game has about 4 million players? 5 million players? Maybe if it's not as high as that, it could be 2 million. But however there is, it still doesn't take away from my point that it is still way more than the number of global players in Arknights. Which, yeah, everything that I said in the previous video still holds true till now. So, I think that's all the clarifications I need. Let's get started on investigating all these banners. Now, there are limitations to this analysis that we're gonna do. Number one, as I stated, this is only up until Skadi the Corrupting Heart. I know when I stated that I was gonna do this, some of you told me, you know, what about the Chen Altar? What about No Altar? Well, the information is kind of there, but it's not consolidated so nicely to the point that it's easy for me to use them. So that's why I have to stop at Skadi the Corrupting Heart. That's as far as I can go. And the other thing is that some of you said, what about global and JP data? All these numbers that I gather from Arknights CN allow me to just cite my source here. It is from this Bilibili video where this particular guy compiled the numbers from a range of websites. These range of websites are basically estimates of the earnings that Arknights have. And he did some corroboration. I also did some corroboration to see whether the things tally. And I would say that it is mostly okay. There might be a margin of error, like it could be left or right from the actual number. But however there is, the numbers do speak volume enough for us to make some interesting discovery about what we're gonna see. So that's how I got the information on CN. But for global and JP, those information are very hard to get. I tried to get my hands on some kind of analytics website, but sadly there isn't a website that tracks the revenue of this game, so I'm actually tied up to get all those numbers that some of you want to see. So understand where I'm coming from, that I only have the Arknights CN data to make this video out of. Of course, if some of you are very interested to know the global and JP revenue, I'm pretty sure there are some people who start Reddit threads to do all these kind of discussions. If you guys want to go and see them, you can do your own website sorting. But again, this video should be a nice one for you to see. So let's get to the basis of these banner revenues, alright? You guys can't really see the names of the operators. This is a really small screen, this is on my iPad. But some of you really need to be wary about how these numbers over here are being calculated. Now the revenue are calculated in a way where the estimates, as I mentioned just now, and the estimates within the banner duration. So for instance, if a banner runs for 2 weeks, it is the estimated amount that players put into, you know, the app store and whatsoever to make the purchases within the game during those 2 weeks. And what this calculates is that it calculates all the spendings of every single pack that a player buys and also original prime. So I mean, those are the two things that you can only spend on in the game, packs or OP. So it combines all of those values to give the whole number out. This information is very important when we move on to this video. You'll get why later. Alright, if not, without further ado, if you have not made your guesses, in the previous video I told you guys to make a guess as to what banner goes into which position. This is a screen or a template that you can use. Go and take a phone or a piece of paper right now, okay? These are the 25 banners that you're supposed to fill. I've already placed Mountain at the bottom. That is 1 out of 25 that's done. Now within these 24 banners, go and arrange them to what you think. Only when you have done that, continue watching the video. If not, pause it right over here, do this first, then let's discuss the answers. So, I've assumed that you've done it already. Let's get to the rankings. In 24th place, there is Passenger. 23rd, there's Phantom. We're gonna go up from the bottom, right? So, Phantom, Kyaaaaaa, Blemishine, Aketo, Surtur, Unectus, Bagpipe, Suzerain, Rosa, Ash, Duskin Saga, Thorns, Blaze, Mostima, Rosmontes and Mudrock, Magalan, Helager, Nian and W and Weedy, Schwartz, Chen, Skadi, and last but not least, or if not first but not least, Skadi the Corrupting Heart, and Kelsit. Did the numbers that you guys see surprise some of you? I could imagine it does, because it seems strange, right? Like how some of the operators that you don't expect to have high earnings end up earning higher than some limited banners, and then you see some of the popular ones being down below. Now, like I said about the way that the revenue is being calculated, understand one major point over here. Revenue doesn't equal to popularity. It doesn't mean that at that point in time, that's the lowest spendings that occurs in the game, and therefore, it means that, you know, that's not a liked character at all. It doesn't make sense. Mountain, Surtur, and Bagpipe are really strong characters within the game, and how can it be that they have such a low placing in terms of popularity, right? So of course this is not a ranking of who is the most liked character in Arknights. If you want an information like that, then all that we need to do is to do a survey of all the players and ask them who's your favorite operator, go and rank them one by one so that we get the information. All revenue does is that it dictates the amount of money that was spent during the banner. Let me give you this example. You go to a department store and then you go to a store owner, alright? You ask them, what is the most selling item that's within your store? And then they point to an item and then they say, okay, it's this bag C. Then, okay, you understood that. Then you ask them, what is the most popular item? Well, it is very likely that they'll point to the same bag and it's bag C. It is the most popular item. It makes sense. Most selling equals most popular. But that's because that's just how it works when you talk about selling items. Then in the case of a gacha game, it doesn't mean the same thing. The amount of money that the game earns during, that character release of time is not gonna determine that this is the most liked character or not. Reason being, gacha currency is not the same as real life currency. Gacha currency in the case of Arknights is orundums. We use orundums to pool. And we get orundums not just by paying money in the game, we get it from doing Annihilation, we get it from doing our weekly and daily missions, from the events, from like all the free rewards that we get from events. So there's a lot of freebie stuff that we get in order to pool the characters we want. This chart here isn't the amount of orundum that's put into the banner. This chart here is just the amount of spending. People can save orundums for all they want in order to get the character that they want. I know some of you are already saving very hard for the next banners that you want to pull. So get that idea across. It's not like Mountain and Passenger being in the bottom. It means that they're the most hated characters or the weakest character. It just means people didn't spend during that point in time. And now when we arrange these banners in terms of like the revenue that they earn from the lowest to the highest, you cannot see any trend just yet. So I'm gonna rearrange this chart and show you guys the chronological order of the banner revenues. This is even more interesting. So let me do that right now. It's probably showing up on the screen. Alright, this is probably where we need to start talking about what we're looking at. So, as you can see, it starts all the way from Skadi and all the way to Skadi the Corrupting Heart. Let's look at the banners in batches to see what goes on, what's the behavior during that time period. Let's talk about the beginnings of Arknights, alright, where we look at the first 7 banners of the game, from Skadi to Blaze. Why is it so that Skadi, Chen and Schwartz are actually in 2nd, 3rd and 4th place, right, in the previous rankings? Well, they are the first operators of the game. And what happens when the game first starts? A lot of people join the game, a lot of people pick it up, and what do quite a bit of people want to get when they play the game? They want a head start. They want to make sure that they put some money in so that they can propel forward and be ahead of the players. I mean, when you first start the game, there's the option of buying a few things. You can buy the starter pack, you can buy the starter hit hunting pack, you can buy the starter furniture, the starter resources, like, you can buy a lot of things when you first start the game. And with all these good offers at the beginning, because they are some of the most worth things you can get when you first begin the game, the spendings will be very high when all the players all hold together and want to spend in the game. So it is very apparent that these 3 operators have very high spendings at first, with all the influx of players. It's not because the first operators are Skadi and Chen, and therefore they have the highest spending. Any operator that you're going to put at the start of the game, even if it's Passenger, even if it's Thorns, even if it's Weedy, whatever they put at the beginning, it's going to be the highest sales. Easily, because the starter packs are over there for people to buy. That is to explain how the game started off with such a strong front, and then afterwards, it trails down. It's understandable. Less people need to buy the packs, less people need to spend on big money, and then it just goes down all the way until Blaze. But if we see how it just goes down all the way until Blaze, we see a little trend there, that revenue starts to dip, it goes down, and what does this say about the way that players are choosing to spend in the game? Arknights is a really good gacha game. You get a lot of randoms, a lot of pulls just from playing it diligently every single day or every single week. If you clear off your Annihilation, you clear off all your missions, you participate in the events, within a month, you could get about 20 pulls. If you're good at it, you could get 30 pulls. And if the event is very generous to give a lot of randoms, a lot of hit hunting permits, 40 pulls even, if let's say you're a free-to-play player, that is. And if you think about it, compared to some other gacha games, it's a lot of free pulls. And thankfully, we only have one kind of banner that we have to pull for, which is the operator banner. We don't have things like weapon banners that have to double up and then we have to spread our resources all around to decide on what we want. And I think that's something that players notice when they first begin the game. They first spend on the starter hit hunting pack. Easily, if you come from other gacha games, you will have the impression that, oh, if I spend on the gacha game now, I'm gonna be like ahead of other players. I can be better than other people. But that's just how we feel maybe at the beginning, and later on when we realize it's a PvE game, a player versus yourself kind of game, there's no PvP that's involved, you realize it's your own experience that you built, there's no need to chase the ranks, there's no need to make yourself look better than another person. So spendings go down because of player behavior when they realize, oh, I don't really have to spend a lot in the game. If I'm gonna spend, at most I spend a monthly card. That's like my spending. I only spend on the monthly card, by the way. If you're thinking, Cookie, are you like a Leviathan or a whale or something? Do you spend a lot? Well, I spend on good packs if I want to buy them. I don't spend on like monthly hit hunting. I don't buy every single pack in the game. The most that I push for really is just the monthly card because it's freaking worth. 10 free pulls that you get every month, it's quite a steal, at least to me. So there's that to mention, to explain what we are seeing at the front over there. Now we're gonna move on, and we see that right after Blaze, it's Nian and W. It's the first limited banner that occurs in the game. And of course, being a limited banner, what happens? The spending spikes up. Special packs are being sold at the point in time. There's a limited operator that goes on. So people wanting to get the good stuff, they spend more money in the game, they try to get the characters that they want, and then it explains why things have its high spendings over there. Alright, not much to explain or talk about here. We look at all the limited banners again as a whole later. After the limited banner of Nian, look at how there's KOB, Bagpipe, and Phantom. Notice how the spending is very low. If we continue drawing a downward line, right, and a consistent line from Skadi to Blaze and then we move on, we may not think that it's gonna go as low as what it is over here, but it did hit quite a bottom. And this is expected behavior. Honestly speaking, after a limited banner occurs, the spending will dip. People put all their money in this thing and then therefore they can't put their money in another. I mean, for most of us, we're regular average human beings. We go to school, we either have not a lot of money because we only get it from our parents and we cannot spend a lot in the things we want, or we have a job, we have a life, but we cannot really put our money in everything, right? We could put all our career money into a game, but that can be a little painful. For those of us who cares about, putting the money in the right places, we can't possibly spend in every single month. So of course, when one spending spikes up in a limited manner, it goes down in the next few. And at most, maybe the next few that you see over there, those spendings that you see that are contributed, it's probably just monthly card buyers, some of the monthly hit hunting buyers, maybe even those Leviathans who care about buying as much OP as they can. So that's the thing that we see that's going on there. It's within this time period that it's like as if there's a saving culture that is starting up. Saving culture is not unique to Arknights. It happens in all the gacha games ever. It's just a thing where, people just save up. We hold back on spending, and at the same time, we might actually think to ourselves that, hey, we don't really need to spend all that much in Arknights. There's a lot of ways to get randoms, free pools, and whatnot. So it's not gonna be such a bad thing. And some people may also think to themselves, limited banners got really good packs to buy there. I should wait until the next limited banner where there's good sales, good packs to buy. That's what I'm gonna save my money for. I'd imagine some of you have that thought when you think about how you spend in this game. So the saving culture basically begins here. Well, I wouldn't say it begins here, but it was very amplified over here. Okay, we move on. The next one is W and WD, which very obviously, as we can see, another limited banner. It spikes up. And see how W and WD earns more than Nian and W? It may be a thing where it could be because it's anniversary, a bigger celebratory occasion, therefore people choose to spend more during that point in time. It could be because there's better exclusive packs. I think this is the first time a selector pack was sold, which is the one that you can choose a 6-star. So that one is going to easily get a lot of sales. It feels really good to get a 6-star that you want 100% chance. And at the same time, the operator that's on the banner is W. It's a crowd favorite operator. So many of you want her because she looks cool. She looks like a character that some of you are willing to love for. So that's the idea that probably explains why W and WD earns way more than Nian and W. So that's the most that I kind of need to mention about this. Let's move on. Afterwards, we see Rosa, Suzerain, Thorns, Unector, Surtur, and Blemishine. Notice how Thorns has a spike? Like, poof, there's a little head that goes above Thorns. There's an explanation for that. This is a little low-key on the global side. Some of you don't really know what happened during the Thorns banner back in Arknights CN. Now, in Arknights CN, there was a controversy that surrounded Thorns. It's not because he was a bad operator or people didn't like him. What players didn't like was the way that he was released. What occurred is that if you remember, Thorns was released as a new operator during a rerun event. The rerun event at that point in time was Obsidian Festival, and then Thorns got released there. When players saw that a new banner was released in a rerun, quite a lot of them were not happy with it. And they have the reasonings for it. They were not happy because for new players, you get a benefit. When you're a new player, you come in, you play a rerun event, you get some of the rewards. You don't get the full package like the original off-season festival, but you can get all those first clear rewards. For the stages that you've never played before, when you play them, you get OP, you convert your OP, if you want, into pools, and then you can do more pools in the banners that you want. For old players, when they do rerun events, we already cleared the event. We don't get extra OP for first clearing anything. First clear means first clear. Second clear onwards, you don't get OP. So many players were upset because they couldn't get the OP that they want. OF had one of the most free original primes that you can get out of like a lot of the events. So if you converted all those OPs, it would easily be 10 pools. And to players, this just hurts. It got them upset. But the good thing was that compared to the Chen Outer, incident where Hyperglyph chose to stay silent, never made much of commentary about it, but the Thorns one, Hyperglyph made a statement about 3-4 days later to state that they will never do a new operator in a rerun event ever again. I mean, look at the new events in CN now. Do we see any rerun event with a new operator? It stopped. And I think it's good because by not putting a new operator, then it calls for more original content for Hyperglyph to come up with, which is pretty much why you see Hyperglyph working so hard in CN right now to churn out all those wonderful new events. Final Silver Trace, Near Light. Soon we're gonna have integrated strategies, maybe we get a storyline of the Silver Ash family. A lot of things. They are updating really fast and really pushing hard to make the game good. So it's great that at that point in time, they listen to their players. And it's not just not putting new operators in a rerun event, but at the same time, for that particular banner, same goes for Global, we had it for 3 weeks. And that explains why there's such a huge spike. Because that spike includes the 3rd week that Thorns was running for. And that's why there's obviously more spendings that go on, since you add an extra week, people might be buying things during then. So that's to explain the anomaly that we see there. But I must also mention that because of the Thorns incident, it starts to spark a little bit of a change in the way that Hyperglyph see things, I guess, that they might be reducing the amount of rerun events. You may think to yourself, hey, they should rerun a particular event, like rerun some of the old banners, rerun a limited banner, because we players will benefit so much from it. I'm certain that they can make more sales. No, they won't make more sales. Think about it. For most of us when we play this game, do we want more than one copy of an operator? Some of us do. Potential can be nice. But for most of us, one copy is enough. We don't need potential 2, we don't need potential 3. At most, if you do port 2, port 3, minus 1 DP, minus 3 deployment costs. You don't get the talent enhancement yet, until about potential 3, 4, 5 or 6. And that's a little far. It takes quite a bit of money to do that. For the older operators, quite easy to get some potentials. For the newer ones, not as easy. So when you say things like, I think it's great if they do W again, or I think it's great if they do a banner rerun for some of the older operators, they aren't gonna make a lot of sales. Very sadly speaking. Most of us aren't gonna spend money again. The most that people are gonna spend money are number 1, new players, number 2, players who haven't gotten the operators yet. And as a result, I think that's pretty much why Hyperglyph is holding back on doing reruns. There are things that they could do to improve their limited system, but I'm not gonna mention them now. I'm mentioning that in the next video. For now, our focus is on the banner analysis. So let's continue, shall we? Alright, we move on. Now, afterwards we have Rosmontis, Mudrock, and then there's Mountain, Aketo, Dust Saga, and Ash. These 5 banners. We're gonna look at this trend. There's 3 limited banners here, as you can see. And 3 limited banners sucks. Like, it sucks really bad when you put 3 all side by side and players will go crazy trying to keep up. And I think it's very apparent within the amount of spendings that it reflects how players were feeling during those limited banners. Notice how Rosmontis and Mudrock is earning way less than Nian and W. And here's another thing. Rosmontis and Mudrock was released 6 months after W. By that point in time, if people were holding back on their spending and, saving their money, then they should have a lot of money to take out the bank and put some money in here right now. Like, expectantly, it should have been a case where Rosmontis might earn more than W. But it's not. It's almost as if it's earning half of what W did. It's not half, it's about 2/3, but that's not a good sign. Well, there are some explanations for that. It could be because Rosmontis is not as popular of a limited operator. She's seen as the daughter of Arknights, but to quite a few people, she's not as cool as W. Then, at the same time, a lot of people could have saved very hard in the past 6 months. 6 months. Imagine you don't pull on anything. If you are free to play or even a monthly card, okay, let's consider free to play. You save up every single month, take all the OP. You could save 300 pulls, actually, to start pulling in that banner. Now, understand this. Spark system did not exist until Dust and Saga happened. When Rosmontis and Mud Rock was a thing, people didn't know about Spark system yet. So there's no such thing as I'm saving for a certain number of pulls. No one saw Spark system coming. People were just saving diligently. And even if you're someone who saved 200 pulls or 300 pulls, it is quite certain that you could get as many of the operators on banner easily. Unless it's a rainy day and you're really unlucky, you can't get the operators that you want. But if not, a lot of people can save very well and get the operators that they want from Rosmontis and Mud Rock. And therefore, that explains the lower spending that occurred within there compared to W and VD. Now, after this thing happened, 3 months later for CN that is, there was a Dust and Saga, and then just under a month later, there was R6, Rainbow Six Siege collab with Ash. When we look at all these 3 banners combined together, we notice something here. There's player fatigue. People are tired. I mean, you may feel like you're alone in this, but even the CN players feel the same way. People are tired to spend. It's too much. When you put all the limited banners side by side, you may think that, hey, if they do all these 3 limited banners, they're gonna earn a lot. The graph speaks otherwise. The earnings kind of tank. Dust and Saga look as if they are just a regular banner. They don't even earn higher than Blaze. Think about that. They don't earn higher than Blaze. And then Ash, Rainbow Six Siege, cool operator, it's not earning a lot, as you can see. It really goes to say that people are very tired to pay money in the game when you put all too much things collapse together. And I think Hyperglyph may have already noticed that, which is why they're quite carefully pacing out their limited banners now. I won't be so in-depth in this video, because that's something I want to mention in the next one, but you can see how they're starting to move to this trend where they try to do a limited banner once every 3 months. With the exception of collaborations, of course, but they're kind of trying to space it out that way. Because 3 months is like a good enough bracket to make people spend. It's like each quarter, you know, maybe if you're working in a company, you've got quarterly bonus or half-year bonus, that kind of thing. Good for you, then you can spend money in the game. If not, if you talk about 3 months each, that can also coincide with holidays within your own countries, which is a good time to spend. So, they are kind of changing it up. You hated those 3 limited banners, I hated it, no one liked it. Did Hyperglyph liked it? I don't know, maybe they were experimenting to see if people will pay more money. Experiment success? Maybe not. So that's that to see about the triple limited banners. It's a surprise, I think, to most of you who's watching up to this point right now. There are very interesting conclusions on the draw here, but let me finish the analysis by just bringing you to the last banner, which is Skadi the Corrupting Heart and Calcid. Very interesting to see that they are the highest spendings ever in the game. They exceeded all the limited banners, and finally, the game earned more than the first ever banner of the game, which is Skadi. Skadi the Corrupting Heart wins over Skadi. Funny, right? And I think it's very explainable as to why this event can earn as much money as it did. There was a very interesting poll that I saw on the Facebook group, where some of you did a poll as to people's favorite event in the game, and apparently the most rated event was Undertides. I mean, Undertides was a good occasion, very celebratory, we all feel very happy together, epic storyline, good characters. Skadi Alter, that's fun. Calcid, core story operator of the game, finally entering the game, that is great. Splendid skill kits from the 2 of them, easy pulls. Therefore, with being such loved characters, and you know, with the occasion being huge, at that point in time when we look at 2nd anniversary, there's a lot of promising updates that was, you know, gonna come in the game. So really that explains why the spending is very high. There's one more reason that explains the Arknights CN spending particularly. There was a lot of packs being sold at that point in time. You know, apart from the selector pack that we get in EN when Undertides happened, the 6-star selector one, there were 2 other packs that occurred in CN during Undertides. But we didn't get it for Ian, because those 2 packs are shifted for our anniversary. The 2 packs was a Dark Lord Purse, which is a easy 7 USD pack, gives a lot of LMD, a decent amount of OP. And there was also one more interesting pack, which was the Immediate Elite 2 ticket pack. I don't know the name of it, but it's some kind of Elite 2 ticket. You can feed that to a 5-star, and that 5-star, no matter what level it is, level 1, E1 level 20, level 20, E0, whatever that you put. If you feed that ticket to a 5-star, it immediately becomes Elite 2, level 1. And that thing can be quite a steal for people, because you get instant progress. No need to waste your sanity to go and farm for something to get a character that you want. Buy the ticket, you got a Spectre, you got a Lapland, you want to E2 them straight away, and they're level 1, worth it. Spend the money, buy, put it on them. And that explains, there were really good packs sold during Skadi the Corrupting Heart, and therefore, the spending's very high. So that is the general analysis of the entire chronology of banner revenues in Arknights. Now, let's get on to some of the deeper stuff that we got to talk about. First thing of all that I want to mention, it has to do with Ashe herself. A lot of people are saying things like, every limited banner should follow the R6S system. Just do 120 spark system, so good for players, we'll be very happy to have it. As you see from the graph, we can kind of tell that the 120 spark system, well, it's good for us players, but is it good for the company? Not at all. If the 120 spark system was applied to every single thing, and it becomes an easy way for people to get the 6 stars that they want, this game may get in trouble. I mean, you can tell me things like, why should a company earn money? You know, that's them being greedy and whatsoever. But there's a difference between greed and need. And even if you say that the greedy or whatnot, you mean they don't deserve money to, you know, use it and then put it on the things that are good for us. Companies need money to improve on the game at the end of the day. With money, they can bring us more updates, hire more artists, hire more animators, make more music videos, more music artists, do the mega animation that they wanted to do. They can basically expand on their projects with more money. Is Hyperglyph greedy? I can't tell, to be very honest. But do we think that they are especially greedy? Maybe if we compare to other things, not as much. They are a very generous game at the end of the day. But that's just something that I wish that a lot of people realize when they play Arknights. When people say things like, I don't want to pay for a game because this game is a gacha game, or this game is a game that is based off a place that I'm not in support with, it's kind of odd, it's kind of bull. Like, I get very ordered out by people who are against paying money in a mobile game and whatnot. If you don't want to spend because you don't feel like it's worth your money, sure. If you cannot spend because you don't have enough cash on hand, sure. But if you don't want to spend because of personal reasons, or you think that the company is bad, I don't know where that's coming from, to be very honest. If we look in the way that AK has been behaving and we see the 2.5 anniversary, the way that they try their best to communicate with their players, at least CN, they bother to put things like timeline. In global, it's shit. We don't get timelines of the events that we want to see. But in CN, they take the effort. They communicate with their players, they are very open to talk about future QoL updates and all that kind of things. The game takes care of their players very, very much. I will re-emphasize on this again, but when we go back to the Spark system, 120 Spark system, the idea of that was that if you get the operator within 120 pools, that is considered a free 6-star pool. If you don't get it, and at the 119th you still don't have Ashe, 120th, you get a dash. For sure. That sounds good for a lot of people. But if they did it on every limited banner, or every banner per se, then we're gonna get in trouble because their banner revenue will not be very high. And we don't know as a company how much do they actually need to succeed in their projects, to be able to pay their staff to do whatever that they need to do. Hence, what I really have to put here is that you need to get that idea out of the head that that 120 Spark system was only done possibly because it was a collaboration event to begin with. It wasn't done just because they wanted to be overly generous or whatnot. It's just because, as a collaboration event, it is very uncertain whether these events will rerun. We all always mention it. We don't know if R6 is ever going to come back. If it comes back, it means that Hyperglyph has took the effort to re-sign a contract with Ubisoft, and then they agreed together. We're going to do an event again in Arknights. Are you okay? Yes, I'm okay. Let's do a rerun. But has that happened? We don't know. We're not Hyperglyphs ourselves. Only time will tell. With that being said, since there's that uncertainty, they take good care of players by giving us this special system in order to ensure that those of us playing during that point in time, we try our best to get the operators that we want within those number of pools. So that was pretty much why. I know there's a lot of people who tell me things like they wish that the spark system was improved. 300 spark system is too much to get the operators that they want, and I think the biggest party that's greatly affected by this are the free-to-plays. I hear a lot of free-to-plays who's very upset about the system of pulling operators within Arknights. Many people love to compare Arknights to other games, and I think one of the favorite comparisons ever is when people compare it to Genshin. People will say things like, hey, in Genshin, if I do 50 pulls, if I spend the money, if I don't get the 5-star here, I'm definitely gonna get the 5-star later. That's so good, because I can get the operator I want. Why does Arknights not have this system? Well, to begin with, Arknights does have a better gacha rate at the end of the day. 2%, which is basically 1 in 50 pulls for you to get a 6-star. At the same time, we only have one banner, as I've mentioned. We don't have things like weapon banners, we don't have like extra accessories that you need to pull on other ones using the same precious currency that you want. Only one banner, do everything with a random. Easy as that. And the thing is, you can get those 6 stars from other avenues as well. You can use yellow certificates to get the 6 stars, the shop operator. Recruitment is there for you. You can grab operators from there as well. There's actually a lot of avenues for you to get not just operators that you want, but even free pools. Look at the certificate shop. The yellow certs, convert them to hate hunting permits, you get a bulk load of pools. Every single event, when it starts, free hate hunting permits, free OP. And at the same time, every major event you play, what do you get? 50 free pools, 40 pools if you don't convert your OP, if you convert the event OP, extra 10 pools, 50 pools, mega. And that goes to show that the game is doing a lot to make sure that you guys get as much as you can. They aren't going to make it such that there's a guaranteed system for you to get a 6-star that you want. There's a strong reason for that. If they did that, you see all those banner revenues that we just saw just now? Boom! It's gonna go down. It goes down, what happens? If the game struggles to survive, for whatever reason, this game that you like very much, that's it. It might go off. The thing that I need to put here to those free-to-play players who are arguing very much about how they really need to change the system in terms of the way that they are making the spendings in the game. You gotta understand something here. That graph that you just saw, you're free-to-play, right? You're not really contributing to the graph. It's quite harsh when I see it that way, but it's true. That's a graph of banner revenue, and that is basically the amount of money that people spend in the game to make those numbers happen. And as a free-to-play, you're not really putting money in it. You have to understand something here, that spark systems are not meant for free-to-play. They are meant for people who are okay to spend in the game. And you might say things like, oh my goodness, spend some money in the game, like, that's harsh, why is the company taking my money? Like, come on, companies need money in order to survive, to bring out all the updates that they want to put into the game, and then afterwards, for those of you who are free to play, you are loving the game, you're loving the gameplay and whatsoever. And what was it to make that happen? All this hard work that they put in, using the help that they get from players to make things come true. So therefore, what I'm trying to say here is that this game is great, fantastic for free-to-play players. But as a free-to-play player, again, at the end of the day, you need to understand this. You're playing a gacha game. This is not a Christmas game. It's not like our dear producer Haimao is Santa Claus and giving you everything every single day. He himself, as Santa Claus, also needs his cookies and milks in order to do the things that he wants. So in other words, you're not meant to get everything. If you really want to get everything, there's 2 things that you need. Money and luck. When you're playing a gacha game, that is. Maybe you haven't been liking the sound of what I'm saying. Still, there is a very important point that I must put across. That all of these, it's all about the balance. Company needs money to survive. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that they will shun away free-to-play players. Any player that's within the game, within the system, it's good for their metrics. When you're a company and you have like 4 million players, doesn't matter if 3 million players are not spending money to, buy the DLCs and whatnot. Those 3 million players, the company can still show to other people and say, hey, look at us, this is the huge player base that we have. They are still going to take all the effort that they can to keep every single player. They don't care whether you pay or not. They will do their best to keep your hearts in their interests. So to those of you who are asking for changes, are you in the position to ask for the changes in the first place? And do you not realize that the game is already treating you all very nicely? Now, what I need you all to understand here is that I'm not speaking in defense of Hypergrave's way of trying to get money from their players. It's not that it's good, it's not amazing. I don't like it myself. Do I like limited banners? Hell no, I hate it to the very core. But when we look at the way that the game is, we gotta be understanding towards how the game is behaving and how the game is really doing their best for everyone over here. We all do fear the day that we sense that there's heavy greed from Yosta or Hypergrave. But as of today that we see things, it's looking okay. And that's why I'm comfortable to still support the game. If the game takes a turn, I won't be as happy. Of course, I will flip as well. So, this is especially to free-to-play players. Understand that the game takes care of you very, very much. And we are all still looking forward to improvements to the system. We wish for better ways for you guys to get as many operators as you want. I also want to get all the operators that I want. Easy, one tap click, I get everything. But till the day that things comes, at least with whatever that we've analyzed, we understand that the culture that's going on within all of these. Alright? And I want to end off with two things. Firstly, the game has hit a point where it looks like there's no reset button. They started off the limited banner with a Nian and an Ark, and then they went on to W and they went on to every limited banner. It's quite hard for them to change the way that they're earning revenue right now. Imagine that they kept up, they stopped all limited banners and made everything standard from here on. And then you see how all the other banners had very low earnings all across the board. If they don't do any limited banners, it's gonna stay that way all the way. And we don't really know whether the amount of monthly earning that they have is enough to keep up with their servers, is enough to keep up with the needs of the company, is enough for them to produce the animation they want to produce. Hence, they will continue the trend of limited banners nonetheless. If you don't like limited banners, we're better than some other game. There's another game with every banner as a limited banner. That sucks, doesn't it? I think it's better that we have some banners as limited and other banners that's not limited. So that's a good part. The other thing that I want to mention is, it sounds like I'm ending the video on a more negative note, but it's not it. There is a thing that we must see here, that there can be improvements. This video is to get you guys into the understanding of the nature that goes on in Arknights. And with that understanding, I can then take you into the next video where we talk about how we as players personally feel towards limited banners. The next video tugs at the heartstrings, for sure, that we are going to talk about what we do not like about limited banners and what we want to see change about limited banners. Because like I said, I don't like it too. I don't support doing more of it, but I understand why they're doing it, and therefore, we're going to see how they can make things better. Alright? From here on. Tough video. Very tough video. Like I said, this is the third time I'm filming it. I hope that I produce it the right way. Probably, I'm stressed to see the feelings that some of you may have when you watch this. But, oh wells, we'll see how it goes. If not, I will see you within the next video. May that be a good conclusion that we all look forward to. Bye bye.